Joseph W. Brady discusses the latest developments in Spring Valley Lake's Save CSA 64 campaign and reads very enlightening Devil in the Details correspondence that offers facts that contradict claims and accusations of CSD proponents.
Well, I'll tell you, Terry. I told this to one of my neighbors the other day. We have 4,215 lots. We're about 93% built out. We estimate there's about 12,000 people in Springville Lake. I have met 90 people who I never knew. I know about 400 on in Springville Lake that really deeply care, and they're just really nice, everyday people. I've had one person come to the house twice to ask where their sign is. I get a lot of text messages from people on the 760-9544-567. We've put out about 110 signs so far. I've had fun delivering signs because you really do meet some really nice people. We've had two unfortunate altercations, one with both with committee members on the opposite. And what I would say to Rory Shannon and to Steve Smith, I know that Larry Hoover's not happy about this, and I know that Gary Abbott's not happy about it. But let's not make this personal. Let's try to be professional about it. My office has asked that it be kept professional. Last week when I was driving into Prescott, I had a great conversation with Lisa Verhagen about the policies that she has. There was a banner going back and forth, and I called her up, and I was a little hot about what I had seen. And after we had the conversation, because I love her and Dennis, I think they're both really good people. Let's keep this at an adult level, okay? Gary, I am going to respond to your 2-page caustic and toxic email. I was really surprised. I mean, I was surprised that you would do that, being a community leader. But neither here nor there. Out of the clear blue sky, I was contacted about 10 days ago from a former CSD employee. And for those of you watching it, it was not Jeff Rigney. So many of you know that I know Jeff Rigney. We still have a friendship. Jeff will be a lifetime friend. I think I introduced him to Springville Lake. And as Jeff said, Joe, I'm not involved in this. And when we talk or share times, we don't talk about the CSD. But this was a former employee that came to me and said, I have looked at this. And they wrote me a rather detailed email that I want to share. It's called The Devil's in the Details. So for those of you watching, sit back and follow me, because there's 4 or 5 things in here that are rather interesting, and some of them I'd never really thought about. The old saying that the devil's in the details rings true as ever. Case in point, the creation of a community service district for Spring Valley Lake. Sounds like a great idea. I have supported the same notion in the past and think that self-governance is often a good form of operation for some communities, so long as you vote for the change with your eyes wide open. The proponents of the CSD have advertised low water rates. Locally elected officials, your neighbors will be looking out for you. We'll have professional staff, and this staff will not be getting public retirement benefits, so it'll save lots of money. I think that pretty well sums up the deal. Well, Terry, let me tell you what's kind of funny. When we're talking about low water rates, right here, this comes out of the 2020 Phelan Pinion Hills report. Okay, so Charlie Johnson, who's a proponent for the proponents, he might even be paid a hired gun, because these guys got a lot of money. Their water rates are 71.23 compared to the lowest one, 32.17. And that just comes right out of their report. So when Rory Shannon says all Joe Brady says is half truths and half fiction, okay, so there's a fact. So Rory, let's be sure we get that. Seriously, as a CSD is a form of governance under California law, as a public agency they will have public employees, and public employees are generally covered under a defined retirement plan, either under the Public Employees Retirement System, PERS, or the 1942 Retirement Act, the one that most county employees are in. If the new CSD will retain any of the qualified or experienced employees who now work for CSA 64, which I would assume they would, they will have to either retain their positions and retirement benefits or pay the county for that amount due for each under the LAFCO action. Will they bring in private operators instead? How will they know if the private operators aren't cheating us, as proponents claim that the county is? How will they deal with that? The proponents would like you to believe that the county has mismanaged the district to a point that we need unqualified new staff and 5 elected officials to manage what has been done with a modest staff and shared resources through the Special Districts Department of the county. The distributed staffing costs the county uses is like the one used by fire agencies throughout the state. It works like an insurance policy that in that you pay direct costs for direct services and a proportion of the indirect costs to support the greater workforce or equipment that is available when you need extra resources to deal with emergency outings and natural disasters. Sounds kind of logical. If we experience a sudden disaster such as a major earthquake that scientists say we are long overdue, where will the help come from? During the Landers quake event, and I lived through that, and that was scary, many water districts were knocked out of service for weeks, and in some cases months, as their water lines failed and their storage tanks ruptured. Most of you seeing this know there is a water tank at the corner of Pebble Beach and Ridgecrest. I recall the county mobilizing Special District, Public Works, and other agencies to help out during that event. Who will help us when the CSD board is in charge? The CSD board, of course, is 5 of our neighbors with no experience in emergency operations or water or sanitation operations. The proponents have criticized, so again, people need to take a look and say the experience or non-experience. The proponents have criticized the county for installing 1-inch water meters to replace the antiquated 3-inch quarter meters. They say they could have saved an immense amount of money if they had gone to the plastic meters instead of brass. What they fail to tell you over the history of Spring Valley Lake is houses have increased dramatically. So those of you that have moved into Spring Valley Lake, let's say in the last 10 to 15 and 20 years, when Spring Valley Lake was developed by Boise Cascade in 1969, it was a second home community, and they really didn't think that people would even have a house more than 2,000 square feet. You know, new homes built today probably average 2,500 square feet. They say they could have saved an immense amount of money if they'd gone to plastic meters. What they failed to tell you is over the history of Spring Valley Lake, homes have increased dramatically. This is no longer a community of second homes. Most homes are built in excess of X square feet. This person didn't know. A 3/4 inch meter is not sized sufficiently for the number of fixtures in the house. I, for one, like the water to run when I take a shower and someone else is flushing the toilet within the house. That's why we need the larger meters. But they also wasted money on the brass meters. The CSD proponents will have you believe that the brass meters are only appropriate for rural areas to protect the meter from breakage by vehicles. Not so. Brass meters last 3 times longer than plastic composite meters, and radio red attachments can be replaced over the 30 to 40 year lifespan of the brass meter multiple times without charging out the meter. Plastic meters last no more than 7 to 10 years. If you don't believe me, call any one of the major water districts in Southern California and ask them what type of meters that they use and the telemetry they use that are charging this. Getting back to Terry, when on February 18th, and I remember it well, Norm Hurst, my friend, was still alive, and that was Brian Hurst's father. So Brian is now on the board of directors of the association. We met at Panera Bread. That was the morning before the LAFCO approval on the 19th. And I asked Rory at the time, I said, Rory, why don't we make the country club and Spring Valley Lake and help create a strategy for the association, try to figure out how to convince the owners within Spring Valley Lake, because you need 66% of the people in order to convince them, owners to do it. Let's put all of our time and energy in that. Let's table this. And Rory said, he goes, Joe, the problem is the county's ripped us off for $1 million in the last 5 years. Okay, great. I said, I've gone through your report and I really can't see that. And part of this is the brass meters and the piping and all that, which I've just kind of read. But I think that the bigger issue was, I said to him at the time, Gary McBride is the CAO of the county. So why don't we make an appointment? I can get down to see him. The former CEO was a guy by the name of Greg Devereaux, a great guy. And I said, he'll facilitate it. Why don't we go on down there and see what we can do to leverage to help save Spring Valley Lake money? No, absolutely not. So that tells me that there wasn't really an interest in really getting to the point of saving money. We just need to create more government. And I'm totally against new government. And I think most people I'm talking to in Spring Valley don't want new government. So getting back to the plastic deal. So the fact is cheap is not always better. A professionally designed and run water operation needs civil and sanitary engineers, trained and credentialed, licensed operators with experience, computer flow modeling and monitoring, and a master plan to effect the replacement of aging infrastructure, handle fire flow, and ensure the quality of water for our safety. It needs competent office and public service staff to answer those questions, process your payments, and adjudicate your complaints. I don't recall any of that on the flyer. Let me tell you this, though. Many of you have probably received this in the last couple days. The county is moving and they're consolidating their operations. No, they're not going out of business. And really what they're doing, this is, I think, of benefit to all of us. It's not going to be a benefit to a couple of the employees that live locally that now will have to drive down at least 2 days a week. I think they're going to allow them to work out of their home three days a week as an accommodation. But what they're going to do is they're going to save on an 8,000 square foot office space over here in industrial that I'm banking was probably running them probably close to $11,000-$12,000 a month. So imagine that savings is going to go right back into our pot, and that's going to be a benefit. So I've had a couple of people call me and they're panicked about this. I'm really happy that the county did this because they're moving back into a county building down in San Bernardino, that Public Works. So Public Works, I believe, has taken over CSA, the CSAs. The budget for the proposed CSD is highly simplistic, makes major assumptions of savings, and uses examples based on the Phelan area. So Spring Valley Lake is not Phelan, and Phelan will never be Spring Valley Lake. Spring Valley Lake is not Hellendale, and Hellendale will never be Spring Valley Lake. Spring Valley Lake is an urban density community, and its infrastructure should be operated as such with competent managers and operators. Phelan is a rural district with a typical lot size of 2.5 acres and more. Look at the water rates in Phelan from the time of the formation of the CSD and show me they haven't had substantial increases in water rates. If you can do that and ensure my water and sewer rates will not go up, I'll vote for the new CSD. Well, this person actually knows a lot more about that CSD and knows a lot more about Hellendale. The fact is there are complex issues involved in water and sanitation business, and it's highly regulated. We should be thankful for that because it protects our safety, health and safety. I'm not sure trusting my neighbors to take care of me in this business is my first choice. How many of your neighbors do you know who have specialized degrees and credentials to ensure water safety? I don't know of any. A part of the proposal involves taking over trash collection services that are now provided by the county. Have you had any problems with trash collection lately? When I need, I simply call and they respond. We don't need 5 elected board members to deal with trash collection. Let me stop right there. I think that advanced disposal, Sheila Bath does a great job. Sheila is a part of our community. She lives in Spring Valley Lake. Most people don't realize that the county imposed a rate increase based on requirements from the state and the county, I think within the last 3 or 4 months. Nobody said anything. Rory's not going to say anything. Sheila lives right next door to Rory, so that's not going to do it. But at the end of the day, we get great service. It seems, and why are so many individuals from afar, okay, I mean Charlie Johnson, et cetera, around the high desert so interested in providing guidance on how we better run our community? It seems to me that these people are looking for a job in retirement. Did you not remember that an elected official is paid by the public entity? Did you know that when an elected official is paid by a public entity, not only do they receive a salary or hourly compensation, in many cases they receive retirement through the same system they claim to abhor? In the proposal, all 5 members of the board are slated to receive monetary compensation. It doesn't say for what service, number of hours that they provide, nor does it say that their compensation cannot be increased annually. It simply doesn't say. If they are so community-minded, now this is interesting. If they are so community-minded, why not make the board positions volunteers? No compensation, no expense accounts, no training, travel, money, just volunteer their time. I'm not against good government. I firmly believe that we should strive to achieve it. My problem with the proposal is that simply the proposed budget presented to the voters is too simplistic and does not answer the questions that need to be answered for you, the voters, prior to an election. There is no turning back once your vote is cast. Why not pull the issue from the ballot and answer the compelling questions? We will then be stuck with this proposal and go forward without any further examination. Or better yet, just vote no and force this to come back another time with more thorough examination of our options. So we had that, and then recently we had a very nice article written by a gentleman within Spring Valley Lake, and their name was C.J. Wilson. So C.J., I don't know if you're a man or woman, and I apologize. But your article's in the Daily Press. I thought it was very well written. It says residents of Spring Valley Lake have a long-awaited opportunity to take their service from the county, transferring them to their own community services district. This transition should have occurred a long time ago, as Spring Valley Lake is almost completely built out and should certainly have local control of services. Why then is there one person leading the charge to try to stop this from happening? This person states that the county is doing a good job. Not true. The LAFCO report states over the last 5 years, the county has diverted over $1 million of Spring Valley Lake money to pay for expenses of the other districts. It is possible that he owns property in these other districts. He states that the rates are low, so leave it alone. The rates are low, however. There was a rate study done by the county recommending significant rate increase for Spring Valley Lake. This was put on hold until after November 3rd, at which time the county will begin proceedings to raise rates if CSA 64 does not transition to a CSD. Stop the county, check the facts. Yes on Measure V for our CSD. Mr. Wilson or Mrs. Wilson, you're absolutely right. We should check the facts. So I got your article and I scanned it down to the person who oversees this, and his name is Luther Stokes. And let me tell you what Luther told us. Luther came back and he said, so I sent this down to him, and he responded on September 17th at 8:40 in the morning. Mr. Brady, regarding the sewer rate increases, what I have provided to you who have inquired, what I have provided to those who have inquired in the following. There are no rate increases immediately forthcoming that are recommended for CSA 64 sewer. SDDs, special districts, was notified by VVWRA, that's Victor Valley Wastewater Authority, of increases to the new connection fees, but have not received notifications that we can locate regarding service rate increases, though we expected them to be coming. For water rates, especially, there might need to be a moderate rate increase in the future, as any utility does not keep up with cost of living increases. Prior staff's recommendation to the Board of Supervisors for CSA 64 rate increases is not what has been identified as necessary at this time. So I thought, okay, great. Well, a couple days later, I get a call from somebody well-known within Spring Valley Lake, and they informed me that they had heard from a pretty good individual, I guess that the employee works at the homeowner association, that they had stopped street sweeping. I happened to be over at grabbing lunch, and the phone went off, and I took the call, and the person said, hey, Joe, you might know the person to find this out. And I said, yeah, it's Luther Stokes. So I reached out to Luther, and I said to him, I said, I understand that you have stopped street sweeping. He said, Joe, the department still does active perform street sweeping services as we were responsible to do. We did sweep last week, and we'll be sweeping Thursday and Friday this week. So I think, Terry, what I'm starting to see is we're in the middle of this campaign, and on Facebook they talk about truths and half-truths, and I'm sure their mailing campaign. They've got a high-powered, very expensive political consultant. So we all know how you can spin these facts and get people kind of worried. At the end of the day, our sweeping's getting done on time. Now this was rather interesting. So I went back to this person and told them about this, and they said, Joe, there was a portion of a property. So this might be something to do with one of the big properties within Spring Valley Lake. And they said it hasn't been swept. It wasn't swept this last week. So I reached out to Steve Samara. Said, wouldn't you know that they keep a GPS on that street sweeper? They were able to determine that that person had cut short a portion of that street, and that street sweeper went back and took care of it. And kind of the feeling that I got when I had talked to Steve Samaras is that would not be a very good outcome for someone on over there. So I think Rory and Steve and the committee, let's talk about fact. Let's not make this personal. Our committee doesn't have anywhere near the financial resource that you guys do. I think at the end of the day, we can all agree that what we need to do is be able to walk proud through Spring Valley Lake and tell people the facts and not muddy them up and let them see. And I think that we need to stop the negative, Facebook postings. I don't like it. I don't like to participate in it. I won't let it happen. And I have talked to Elisa Verhagen and told her that I totally support whatever she has to if people are kind of going across the line. So.